Hi, my name is Denija Brown, and I'm going to be doing a presentation for my Psychology 305 Forensic Psychology class. And this will be on the origins of criminal mind, specifically on Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. I chose this case because it really shows how complex criminal behavior is. It's not just about someone being a bad person, but about understanding how different psychological, environment, and behavioral factors all come together over time. Throughout this presentation, I'm going to connect his behaviors to concepts from forensic psychology and research. Introduction. The main purpose of this presentation is to better understand what leads someone to becoming a serial offender. Instead of what Instead of just focusing on crimes themselves, I want to take a deeper look at the psychological processes behind them. Forensic psychology helps us to do that by analyzing patterns, personality traits, and life experiences. I also think it's important to understand that behavior develops over time, so we have to look at both internal factors like personality and external factors like environment and upbringing. Who is Gary Ridgway? Well, I'm going to tell you. Gary Ridgway was one of the most prolific serial killers in U.S. history, operating mainly in Washington state during the 1980s and 1990s. He targeted vulnerable populations, especially women who were sex workers or runaways, which made him less likely to be which made the women less likely to be um, immediately reported missing and him less likely to be caught. This is important because it shows how offenders can take advantage of social vulnerabilities. His case is also significant in forensic psychology because it demonstrates patterns in victim selection and behaviors that can be studied and used in future investigations. Early life and background. When looking at Ridgway's early life, there were several risks that stand out. He had a difficult and unhealthy relationship with his mother, which may have contributed to his distorted views of women later in life. His upbringing also lacked stability, which is something we use in individuals who develop which is something we see in individuals who develop antisocial behaviors. These early experiences can shape how someone processes emotions, relationships, and control. In forensic psychology, this connects to the idea that childhood experiences can play a major role in personality development and later behavior. Criminal behavior. Ridgway's criminal behavior followed a pattern, which is something forensic psychologists pay attention to. He was able to commit multiple murders over a long period of time without being caught, which suggests he was organized and methodical. He would often approach victims in a calm and non-threatening way, which allowed him to gain their trust. This shows how manipulation plays a role in criminal behavior. Eventually, he was caught through DNA samples, which highlights how advancement in forensic science have changed the way crimes are solved. From a psychological perspective, Ridgway showed traits that are often associated with psychopathy, such as lack of empathy and emotional detachment. So he has a psychopathic personality. One concept that stood out to me from the research is that the idea of primitive defenses. Health Gott explains that these are unconscious ways people protect themselves emotionally. For example, someone might disconnect from their actions or justify harmful behavior to avoid guilt. This explains how someone like Ridgway could continue committing crimes without showing any type of remorse. Patterns and typologies. One of the biggest things I've learned from research is that criminal behavior is random. Comerford 22 explains that patterns and typologies help us to understand how offenders think and behave. Typologies basically group offenders based on similar characteristics, motivations, and behaviors. This is important because it allows investigators and psychologists to predict future actions and better understand what drives criminal behavior. It also supports the idea that behavior can be studied scientifically. Geographic profiling. It's another really important concept in forensic psychology. Research shows that offenders often commit crimes in areas that they are familiar with. Comerford found that many offenders stay within a certain geographic range, often close to where they live or feel comfortable. These investigators narrow down suspects and predict where future crimes might occur. In Ridgway's case, understanding his movement patterns could have helped identify him earlier. Typologies of violence. According to Shipley and Argo, different types of violent offenders can be categorized based on their motivations, personality traits, and behaviors. This means not all serial killers are the same. Some may be driven by control, others by anger, and others by psychological needs. These typologies can overlap, which shows how complex human behavior is. This idea is important because it helps move away from stereotypes and instead focuses on understanding behavior on a deeper level. Can intervention help? Looking back at Ridgway's life, there were definitely warning signs, such as early aggression, issues with control. In theory, early intervention like mental health support or stronger supervision could have made a difference. However, one of the challenges is that he appeared relatively normal in everyday life, which made those warning signs easier to miss. This highlights a major issue in prevention. Sometimes the signs are there, but they are not recognized or taken seriously. Conclusion. Overall, this case shows that criminal behavior is shaped by a combination of psychological, environment, and social factors. It also shows that behavior follows patterns, which means it can be studied and understood. Forensic psychology plays a huge role in helping us analyze these patterns and apply that knowledge to real world situations. In my opinion, understanding these factors is important, not just for solving crime, but also for preventing them in the future. And these are my references. These are the sources I used for this presentation. Each one provided insight into different aspects of forensic psychology, including behavior patterns, typologies, and psychological processes behind criminal actions. And thank you guys so much for listening.